It's very easy to overthink. Just get started, try a variety of different things, a variety of different media, and then be consistent about it.
I would say just be patient. I think I was really blown away when I saw that our customers were visiting some of our, social media.
The Industrial Growth Institute podcast connects you with the big thinkers, makers, and subject matter experts across all aspects of an integrated B2B industrial revenue growth function. From strategy, board oversight and transactions, through all the phases of manufacturing marketing, the complexities of industrial sales, and the nuances of marketing and sales technology and customer experience, I speak with guests who bring insights, innovative perspectives, best practices, and twists on traditional approaches. Each episode explores high-level thinking and in-the-weeds actionable tactics. If you enjoyed these discussions, then please help me out by liking and sharing the podcast, and especially by leaving a comment and giving a review. So with no further ado, let's jump into this episode. Welcome to the Industrial Growth Institute podcast. I'm Ed Marsh, your host, and today we're going to have an interesting conversation about family business transitions. This impacts middle market industrial manufacturers in many different ways. Obviously, there's the question of ownership and family relations and tax and lifestyle implications, and with the rise of private equity, often a whole other set of options than what companies had 20 years ago. But there's more to it. I mean, the business norms and best practices that a G1 had 80 years ago and a G2 had 50 years ago weren't necessarily all that different. And that contrasts sharply with the situation faced by our guests and companies and people like them today in the world where, a G2 versus G4 have very, very, very different experiences. Matt Watson is the president of HFW Incorporated. He's third generation, a 32-year veteran of the company. He defines his primary responsibilities to include overseeing the sales and operations of the company. Jack Watson is G4. In his role as project manager, he's involved in the sales, engineering, and new service development processes. He's also actively involved in the company's marketing, recruitment, and sales development efforts. And he's passionate about building on HFW's 75-year history of saving customers millions of dollars and is committed to the company being world-class in all it does. And just in the way the two of them present their bios, I think we've got a kernel of a fascinating conversation. So as we get ready to jump in, I'd ask you to do the important work on our behalf to help others benefit from the insights of Matt and Jack. Please like the episode, comment on it, share it, and by all means, subscribe. Thank you for doing so. And Matt and Jack, thanks for joining me today. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. My pleasure. So one of you start by orienting listeners. Who is HFW? What do you do? Who are your typical customers, et cetera?
Well, HFW Industries, we manufacture and recondition industrial equipment. And whether we're manufacturing or reconditioning, there's usually some sort of surface treatment enhancement involved, whether it's a thermal spray coating or hard-facing weld overlay, or even a chrome plating at times. So that's really kind of our niche over the years. Major industries right now would be chemical processing, which is a pretty wide range of customers and applications, and the whole energy market. Whether it's utility-based applications, oil and gas, and we don't have a lot of experience with it. I think we have one customer who we might consider a renewable energy customer, but traditional energy applications, oil and gas, steam turbine, manufacturing and reconditioning, et cetera.
So oil and gas, even though you all are located in Buffalo, you're not a Houston company. How did you end up focused on that?
Well, surprisingly, I think Buffalo has a lot of still has a lot of companies that are focused on oil and gas just because of legacy companies that were around here. Also, too, we found that if you have a niche, that work may at times travel. So, there are a lot of good shops like us down in Houston, but we occasionally find ourselves getting some work from the Gulf Coast area for various reasons.
Got it. How many employees?
We're around 62 employees right now, and currently looking for a couple more people.
Yeah, and finding good ones is hard. That's part of what we're going to talk about. Why you all have undertaken some of the initiatives you have. And you've got one large facility in the Buffalo area, right?
Yes, our sole facility is up here in Buffalo, New York. We've been based here a little bit over 75 years now. So Buffalo's home. That being said, a lot of our business is, from the Southeast or Midwest. And like I said, we've been lucky enough to find some niche applications where we even have, we have one customer from Spain, we have one customer from the United Kingdom. So, if you find, and there's usually a story behind that, but if you find, if you're able to solve a problem for a customer, and it solves a big enough dollar volume issue for them, I found that, the work will travel. So we try and take a very, or at least I do, wide, it's a big world out there, and we try not to limit ourselves just to our geography.
Right. And how many family members in the business as employees?
My father is the second generation, and we're not sure. We tried giving him a title a couple weeks ago, and he, I forgot what we call him. I think we called him chairman, and he didn't want to be called chairman. He's, he's still involved in the business, estimating and helping us with strategic issues. He's calling himself semi-retired, but he's still a very important part of the business. And, my sister's involved in the business on the accounting side of the business. And Jack, fourth generation, he's been here 2 years, and myself. So, and then I have three other sons, and two of them have worked here. Nolan and Declan have worked here part-time over the years. So it's
nice.
Truly a family business.
And you recently, just I think earlier this year, took over as president from your dad, right?
Yes. Yeah. It was right around Christmas time. And, he said he's trying to enjoy life a little bit. I mean, it's been tough for him because this is all he's ever known. I mean, he's been,
right.
My grandfather started the business, and he worked as a teenager, in high school and college. And so this is all he's ever really known. And there are aspects of the business that he enjoys very much. I think he's kind of given me the aspects that he doesn't enjoy to me.
That's his prerogative at this
point. Exactly. He's earned that right. But yeah, he's 78, and he said, it's time for me to start thinking about the next chapter, and he's definitely deserved to, enjoy life a little bit. So
how long? How long was that process as you all thought about that transition and then implemented it?
Well, I mean, it's been, we're in a very fortunate position. My dad's done a great job. He's put the mechanism in place. So, I mean, this has been years and years of, we've had, we've talked to corporate attorneys.
Right.
We've got the mechanism in place. Business valuation's been done. So it's really been in the works for a while. But he thought the time was right to maybe give me as I said, give me the president title, and it means I get to do things that he's tired of doing now, I guess.
Right. Well, so Jack, what's coming for you at some point, maybe. Obviously this transition was very carefully planned out, and I think that contrasts with the generation from your grandfather. Your grandfather, I think, died unexpectedly, and the company was in a very precarious situation. Your dad took control and pulled it out, and then similarly, at some point, the printing business, where you all had a lot of your customer base, largely collapsed, and much of your business went away. And Matt, you led the effort to recover from that. So those are obviously character building kinds of experiences, and many manufacturing companies have similar stories, but they tend to make companies very conservative and hesitant. How have you managed to kind of embrace that and lean into it and recognize the strength and the character that it created, but not let it become paralyzing?
Well, I actually, with regards to the printing industry, I guess we were kind of fortunate in that it was a very gradual decline. So it's not as if, things stopped on a dime.
Right.
And, I think we've also been, very lucky to been exposed. The whole energy complex went through a huge boom, right before the, great financial crisis. So we had some good years back then. Obviously, we took it on the chin a little bit during 2009 with a lot of other companies, and then
Sure.
kind of diversified within the chemical processing and the power gen industry. And so, printing kind of slowly kind of dissolved, and actually, this year we kind of made the strategic decision. There's a very specific type of roller that we used to work on in the printing industry, and we just said, our machines that were dedicated to that work are aging. We don't have the experience we used to, because that was a real niche application. And it just forced us to say, you know what, let's focus on chemical processing and power gen. And there are a couple other industries we're looking at and we do a little bit of work in right now, but it just kind of naturally forced us to pivot to where the business was coming from.
Got it.
Well, I think we tried to use our background as a strength too, where, like we talked about, my grandfather took over the business when it was in a precarious spot, and not only stabilized the business but built a really solid operation. We're pretty financially conservative. We don't carry we usually carry very little to zero debt, and so we use that as a position of strength, to where we are able to weather downturns. We're able to take care of our people, and that's something that, as we look to grow, we want to I think keep that ethos in mind. And also we talk about conservative growth, and not, we're never going to be a startup that raises a ton of money and we're funded on investors. So we're very conservative, but also I think we try to use that in our growth strategy as well.
It makes sense. If you could just put your mic a little closer, Jack, I think it would help people hear you. Now, looking at both your LinkedIn profiles, it looks like HFW is, essentially the only place each of you have worked. I know, Jack, you had some internships along the way. Some companies stipulate outside work first. You all have taken a different approach. How come?
Well, I think it was just, for me, it was accidental. I mean, I graduated in 92, and there weren't exactly a lot of opportunities for me. I always wanted a manufacturing bent. Yeah, I always had a manufacturing slant. And in college, I interviewed for some industrial companies. Nothing really happened. And my father said, "Hey, I've got this thermal spray coating system. Would you like to help us get it off the ground?" And that was the only offer I had. So I took him up on it, but it was the best thing, in hindsight, it was the best thing that happened. And,
right.
And I think I'll just speak for Jack. I mean, I really, when Jack graduated 2 years ago, we really need, like a lot of people in our industry, we really need the next generation of manufacturing workers. And, Jack always had a desire to, look at coming into the family business. And I said, well, there's no better time than now. And so, I figured to have him come aboard, and he's done a great job over the past 2 years.
Great.
Yeah, and I looked at a couple different options and interviewed and got offers. And I think ultimately one of the things that I realized too, especially with our business, is just I think being in it at my age is very beneficial, because there's so much to learn. It's a very technically intense business, like a lot of manufacturers and a lot of industry. And so I felt that it'd be easier to do it now in my position, where you're expected to be learning, than to go out and work for another company for 5 or 10 years, then come back and maybe like a mid-level to senior level position, and then still have to start fresh and learn all the industry specifics. So
right.
That's I think that was a good decision, because I'm 2 years in. I still have so much to learn. I feel better being in my 20s than being in my 30s having to do that.
Got it. Looking again at LinkedIn, Matt, I see you have 479 connections. Matt, you have over 500. I sense that generationally, you probably look at the platform differently. What do each of you think about LinkedIn?
Well, I mean, for me, LinkedIn, I still, I guess, haven't figured it out. I'm trying to use it in a way in which I would like to see, LinkedIn develop. I've used it for mostly on a sales side, trying the, I'm LinkedIn, I've LinkedIn connections with current customers and, prospective customers that we're hoping to do some work for. So that's, for me, it's been on the sales side, and, also trying to, my theory is if I do post, at least give that person a little bit of nugget, of information that they can, take from. So it's, from my vantage point, it seems like LinkedIn is a recruiter's, heaven, and you see a lot of ads, we're hiring, and that's great and everything, but I enjoy the ads, and I follow people who actually, offer information on some of the fields that we work, and I find those posts very interesting.
Right.
Yeah, I look at LinkedIn like most other social medias. I know there can be criticism of LinkedIn for it being a lot of fluff and not a lot of content, and certainly that can be the case. And you see that with, a lot of the certain posts that people will put up. But I think it can be. It's what you make it. I've found so many good connections, not only in our industry but in my personal interest as well. And so I use it just as a platform, and I found that the more time you invest in it, the better the outcome. And I've really made some good, not only good business connections, but good friends as well. And even with our family, we've had family members who have said, I didn't really understand what you guys did, but now I see you guys are posting it on LinkedIn. I have a better understanding. So for our own family to say that, I think speaks to the value of social media, and especially in the manufacturing realm, because I think manufacturing, and this is some of the generational aspect. For so many years, it seems like manufacturing has been closed off behind factory doors. And, we hear it all the time from people that visit our facility. They're like, I didn't even know this building was back here. So it's kind of hidden in the background, when the reality is manufacturing is critical to our way of life. So I think
are you all hosting a manufacturing day event?
That's something we're looking into. I mean, we definitely have been a little more, we haven't hosted anything at our facility per se, but we're definitely.
Oh yeah, we've done. We're like, one thing we've done is our family events, where we host our Bring Your Family to Work Day, which is actually something I need to follow up on. Being in Buffalo, our annual one this year was canceled due to snow, but we're trying, even just starting with families, then branching out into the community as well. We've done job fairs where people come in and can see the facility for themselves, as opposed to just quick applying for something online. You can actually see where you're going to work. So we've started to. I agree. Yeah. Right, and obviously we can do better. We're constantly looking for ways to bring people in and expose them to this. I mean, another great example. There's a charter school right around the corner from us, and we bring in students and show them around all the time. And again, a lot of these kids live in the neighborhood, and they're like, I've driven past this building a million times. I had no idea what happened here. And so that's just showing the kids what actually happens in their neighborhood has been something we've tried to do more of.
Yeah, Manufacturing Day can be an interesting opportunity for a company like yours, because often if you press release it well, you can get local politicians, you can get the state MEP folks, you can get the press and media there to talk about it. And so it becomes a good promotional opportunity to let people in the community know what you do, and to potentially find some talented, skilled machinists.
Yep.
Thinking about LinkedIn, Matt, I graduated 88, you're 92, we're both Gen X. Often folks our age, and certainly older, the boomers, say things, when I mention LinkedIn, they say things like, oh, well, that's not, people in our industry don't do that. People in our industry don't look there. That's a waste of time. Do you find amongst your contemporaries that there's a kind of disdain, or are they dismissive of it, or are you finding people to embrace it more?
I know of a number of people that probably fit in each of those categories. I think, as Jack said, I think LinkedIn is, and other social media, it's what you make of it. So I try and, make sure I go on LinkedIn somewhat regularly, just to see how, some of the people I follow, or some of the feeds, as I said, there's interesting information on there. But I think, it definitely, I've heard the other side too, where, and I've seen it where, some people now, there's I've seen some, fighting online because some people are now posting, political posts, and
Right.
I have one LinkedIn connection that, said I will defriend anyone who posts anything political, and so we're seeing some of this, come onto the platform. But there's also a lot of, quote unquote fluff articles too that I think people see, and if you see enough of them, I think you're kind of left wondering, well, what's the purpose? So,
Right.
And I also think our generation, we're trying to, well, not just our generation, but social media is now where how a lot of people get their information and news. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but we're LinkedIn's competing for our attention. So is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter or X, whatever we want to call it. So
TikTok.
yeah. So yeah, I've heard both points of view on LinkedIn from Gen Xers.
We originally connected through LinkedIn. I saw you did a post about preventative maintenance, and that's a fascinating topic to me. And I actually jumped in and commented, and then you responded to my comment. So you actually were engaging. I mean, there's a lot of people who kind of hold their nose and post something and then walk away and never come back to it. And I thought it was interesting that you were listening and that you engaged.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's my theory. If I'm posting something up there that I think has value, and if someone's interested, I will try and, to the best of my ability, answer the question or point them in the right direction. And it's also not, I'm also not being, bombarded with questions either. I mean, if I were getting 100 questions, that might be a different story. But I don't mind going. I've done that on a couple other posts. I just think that's, as I said, I'm going after a very small and specific audience. So I just think that's, part of the deal. If I post something and they're interested enough to look at it and they ask a question, I'll try and answer it the best that I can.
Now, Instagram seems to be the big focus. And I'm assuming that's your influence, Jack?
Yeah, that was all me. We had some criticism at first, actually. People were like, why would anyone go on Instagram and look at what we're doing? But we don't have millions of followers or anything, but we're starting to see some real progress on that front.
Yeah, and the interesting thing that I found, and why I think, I talked with Jack several months ago, and we've kind of, tweaked our Facebook and LinkedIn or Facebook and Instagram posts a little bit, is that we were doing, some constant contact emails, and through some of the metrics, we saw that, we saw that our customers were also going on these Instagram posts and Facebook posts because, they're just trying to get a feel for you, especially a lot of our customers, don't seem to get out of the office as much as, maybe historically they did. They're not allowed to. So it just helps give them a little taste of where they're sending their parts. So we noticed a lot of customers were also, checking us out that way. So we figured, well, we need to maybe, tweak it a little bit more. And so we've kind of altered some of our other social media posts to be more of a professional based focus.
Right. And it looks like the pattern right now is posting almost every day on Instagram and then taking one of those on a weekly basis, something with a short form video or a photo, and putting that on LinkedIn. Am I kind of understanding that correctly?
Yeah, that's the goal. Just, I think we've talked a lot internally, my dad and I, my brothers that have helped me with social media, as well as some of our guys internally that are capturing content. And we've just talked about consistency over everything. So, we don't want to post junk. We're not just going to throw any random thing up, but, just always taking videos and photos. And that's something that it's difficult with what we do because we can't show off a lot of the work that we're doing, which from a marketing perspective is very challenging. But we make sure to anything that we can, any cool things that come in that are different from what we're doing day to day. We're taking a lot of photos and videos, and also, we place a big emphasis on making sure we show off our people too, and make sure our people are an essential part of the story, because they are what make this business what it is. And we require the very best of the skilled tradespeople to do the kind of work we're doing. So we try to make them a central part of the story as well.
When you all decided to make this pivot and try this, did everyone agree, or was this one person kind of saying, I'm going to do a test, and everyone else saying, okay, well, we don't think it's going to work, but try it? Or was this the product of a group discussion and a decision to embrace it together?
Well, it kind of morphed. I mean, Jack, it's obviously his thing, and actually my other sons over the years have done some posts for us too, on we couple things on YouTube maybe, and so my sons were saying, hey, this is how our generation finds out about stuff, and so we tried it, and there's a little pushback. I mean, I was a little hesitant at first. I know my father was a little bit hesitant at first. In fact, we had a talk with him, and he said, I think he said, I don't mind if you guys do this. However, I would recommend if you do it, maybe, and we've done this a little bit. We've cut back a little bit on, I wouldn't say we're quite every day, but.
Well, we do post every day, but I think what is interesting and what I really appreciate is my dad and my grandfather. They've given us the freedom, but they still give us feedback. And, my grandfather's always been about quality, and he really wants to show off. We really want to focus on being a really high quality, clean, organized company. And so, what you see with our social media, we really try to make it what you see is what you get. So when you see a clean work center, or when you see guys that have nice, fresh clothing and apparel, and they're wearing all their proper safety equipment, that's not an act. That's actually what happens every day. And he's always been really big about that. So that, I think early on we maybe had some things that we should have caught, and actually I think social media may have been good in that sense, because it made us catch some of these things that shouldn't have been happening, and we clean it up. And I think it shines a light on our business, and I think now that's in general a very positive light.
And how are you measuring success?
Well, that's a tough one, but I think for me, as I said earlier, we noticed that a lot of customers were also visiting some of these posts. So I think that's been successful, because it still is a trend. I mean, some of our customers are still checking out these quote unquote non-business, social media sites like Facebook and Instagram. Also too, I think we've gotten some in the recruiting aspect. I think we're getting a little more traction locally, and I know we've had a couple young people come up to us and knock on our door looking for a job, and I think seeing the social media was one thing they analyzed before knocking on the door. So I think it's hard to quantify, but I think it does play a role in both sales and marketing, and also recruiting.
And can you tie any revenue to any of the activities thus far?
That's another tough one too. I will say right now we're really busy, and our quoting, right now we have a quoting log jam, and I've never seen our RFQ list, this long, and so that's a good problem. So I would like to think, not just the social media, but we're doing other advertising things as well, such trade show. We have one coming up next week, so. I would like to think that all of these things together play a part in generating some interest from current and prospective customers.
And that's how we think about it. Ed, I know one of your guests a few weeks ago was mentioning how the expectation is always that the trade show or the social media post directly leads to an order, and that's never really the way it works. And that's kind of how I think we're starting to look at our marketing efforts. So we have this trade show. We have the constant contacts. We have the social media. We have our direct outbound activity that our salespeople are doing. So it's a collective effort of all these different touch points in multiple different areas. And so we've started to hear it from when we go and visit customers. They're like, "Hey, I saw this thing on LinkedIn," or people, even we had a vendor for a machine tool come in. They're like, "Hey, you guys are really doing cool things on Instagram." So I think that is, you're kind of seeing some of the intangible. I guess the brand name is getting out there a little bit more. and then all these different touch points. That's kind of the larger goal, is to have people see and get in front of people's eyeballs more than I think we had been doing in the past.
And eyeballs, I guess, explains why there hasn't been anything on Twitter since 2020. I mean, you've got an account there, but you're not active there. YouTube doesn't have a ton of activity. You're doing a lot of short form video that you're putting on Instagram. Have you thought about jumping more into YouTube?
Yeah, we have. We're just people constrained. It's really myself. I have an awesome guy, Jacob, that social media and marketing isn't even part of his role right now, but he helps me with. My brothers are helping me in their spare time when they're not working their separate jobs or at school. Right. So it's really just, whatever we have time for. YouTube is something that we'd certainly like to get into. Twitter, I've engaged with personally. I created a business account, or a personal but business oriented account that I've been interacting with, and I found a really good community there. It's really interesting because it's similar to LinkedIn, I've found, but you can have more in-depth, less polished, I guess, conversations, where you can go more into there's more of a discourse, it feels like. But yeah, for our corporate accounts, we've stayed with, right now, we're just trying to, again, go to the consistency instead of trying to do everything. Sure. But we would like to branch out eventually into the YouTube and, doing some of the longer form videos, which my brother's done a nice job of in the past, and we're looking to get back into.
Got it. This kind of a shift can be seen as an experiment by some companies. Others may see it as a big strategy shift. And so, thinking in terms of strategy, how does your company approach broad strategy decisions? Is there a fiduciary board of directors or an advisory board? Do you have any outside directors? What's governance look like? Is it all family and traditional, or is it more formal?
Well, I mean, it's formal in the sense that strategy, is usually talked about with the management team, and we have a very disciplined. We're very disciplined in some of the things that we do here, and one of which is every morning at 9:00, the management team we meet and we discuss incoming orders, incoming RFQs, and any other issues that need our attention. And a lot of times, those discussions, go down the strategy rabbit hole. We also have offsites. We've been doing a offsite every quarter, and that's been helpful. Just you get away from the noise and you're able to talk and kind of discuss some of these things, like where should we as a company go, and what types of equipment do we need, and all those other issues that you need to sit down and discuss from time to time.
And in terms of a board, is there a formal fiduciary board? Do you have any independent directors?
We don't have any independent directors. I mean, we do have being a corporation, we do have a board. Yeah, sure. But it's that's the strategy really isn't discussed. I mean, that's I guess basic housekeeping.
Strategy is driven by the leadership team primarily.
Yeah, the management team is really driving the strategy.
And was the management team involved in this discussion about kind of pivoting to social media?
Well, it definitely came up. I mean, it's something that Jack kind of, with my blessing, he started doing, and once he started doing it, then it kind of organically was discussed. Jack and myself, along with my father. My father gave feedback like, hey, if you're going to post, make it a good post. Right. Don't just slap anything up there. Just get So his comment was, I'd rather see quality over quantity. And so we did that a little bit. We definitely kind of changed as I said, we kind of changed the focus of some of the social media with the mind that, a lot of our customers may see this. At first we thought it might be, a recruiting tool locally, but then we kind of shifted that a little bit and said, hey, some of our good customers might see this. Let's kind of shift the focus a little bit.
Right. Now, social media is one aspect of different generational perspectives. As I mentioned at the beginning, I think your bios are interesting too, because Matt, yours is very kind of X's and O's, overseeing sales and operations of the company. Jack's is more of what strikes me, I said I'm Gen X, it strikes me more as millennial. He's passionate about building on HFW 75-year history, saving customers millions of dollars, committed to the company being world class. One feels kind of like putting your shoulder to the wheel, let's do the work, and the other feels more aspirational and customer focused and aware of legacy. Am I reading those correctly? Is there a difference in kind of your mindset and approach to business?
Yeah, no, I think it's not, and it's not just specific to Jack. I really think, and not that our generation or the generations before us didn't appreciate these things, but I think, this Jack's generation really, they want to know that they're making a difference. Right. They want to come to a place where they feel valued. And, not that we didn't, but it's just, it's kind of hard to explain. I mean, we were,
we had the expression is called work for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And, so I definitely, and I think Jack's helped, kind of, help me pivot a little bit. I've always been very matter of fact, as you said, X's and O's. Right. And, I think Jack's perspective, and I think I'm seeing this, and I think a lot of businesses are trying to do this. I mean, the labor situation is, it's tough all over the place. It's not just manufacturing. I talk to a lot of business owners in other industries, and they're looking for good people, period. Right. And it's tough to find. So how are you going to find, so you're competing over a smaller group of people. How are you going to attract those people? If you offer good benefits, good pay, good benefits, and a good environment too. I mean, so I think it just, if you can offer an attractive place to work where, I tell people here, I'm like, yeah, it's a job. I get it, but we should at least have some enjoyment here. We should at least, enjoy, there are bad days too, but we should enjoy coming to work most of the time and feel like we make a difference and, trying to move that message down the chain. And some people buy into that and some people don't. But, so I think Jack's really kind of changed my perspective a little bit as an employer.
Well, part of it is I'm also just very wordy. I'm trying to work on being more concise. I think concise, especially in our marketing, being concise is an asset. And we try to be quick, concise, and to the point. And that's something that I've learned from my dad and my grandfather, who are both, I think, very good at communicating things in a very efficient manner, which is something I'm trying to improve on. But to the point my dad was making, I think we've also, you've seen the generational shift, not just in like pure generations like millennials, baby boomers, Gen X, but also in like the workforce generation. Like what the workforce today demands is very different. So like my dad was talking about, it used to be, a paycheck and good benefits. Now especially with a constrained labor force, I think you really have to earn your employees' employment. It's a two-way street. They have a lot of options now, especially in our trade. Everyone's looking for these skilled people. You really have to earn their respect and their trust and their time to work for your company. And that's one thing that I think we've always been a good employer, and we've always, our pay and our benefits have always been good. I think we've always treated people pretty well for the most part. But I think over the last couple of years, especially, we've had to be very intentional about it. And we've seen not just in the younger employees, but the older ones too. They know they have options, and we know they have options. And we have to, like we talk about, we want to be world class, not just in the way we treat our customers, but it really starts with how we treat our employees and taking care of them. And that comes through in the marketing too, and presenting ourselves like that to not just our customers, but to our employees as well.
Even though I read those bios very differently and picked up a very different kind of a style from each of you, at the same time, you both mentioned sales. And often in industrial manufacturers, the family focuses on the core technical capabilities. That's what started the company. That's what everyone kind of associates the company with. We do this, and we do it this way, and it's better for that reason. And they just kind of assume that sales happens. It seems that everyone in your company is talking about the importance of sales. Do you sense that that's different than other companies? Is that deliberate?
Well, we're trying to, yeah, I mean, that's something we're focusing on right now. We're trying to, trying to be very deliberate in our sales approach. We recently, the management team, there's been a little more focus on sales. I'm a big believer that, we do some good things, but, I'm a big believer that you got to evolve as a company. You just can't, think you're going to keep doing the same applications and the same customers year in and year out. And I think you become very stale that way. So I think we've got a good thing here, and I think it's time to, get out and let people know, hey, this is what we do. And we realize we can't be, all things to all people, but, we're very niche, or we try to be very niche focused, and, just trying to find a couple more people who could use our services and find, business that's a win-win for both us and, the customer as well.
And how large is the sales team?
Right now we have, one full-time sales engineer, and then, I do some sales. Jack has been helping out our salesperson, Mark Sherman. He's been, very good about working with Jack and taking him along on some sales calls. And then, we've also, even though, and don't get me wrong, we are like a lot of manufacturing companies. We're very operations oriented too. But we've always been big believers in once a company is a good customer of ours, we try and have them interface with numerous people. So a lot of our manufacturing engineers who are, preparing either estimates for the customers or preparing the shop router, that goes down on the shop floor. A lot of those engineers that we have are doing sales related activities and customer service. So really, I guess to sum it up, there, three of us who are working on sales a good part of our time, and then there are a lot of people behind the scenes as well.
Jack, I know you were recently fishing and caught a couple of sharks. I'm guessing that wasn't in Greater Buffalo, but it got me wondering, do you all share hobbies, and do you find a way to escape the grind and pressure of work, be together as a family, but not have that be an extension of work?
Well, it's definitely tough. Yeah, that was not represented. That was my first time fishing on a boat, so I got lucky, and that was actually our best catch of the day. After that, we didn't really catch anything. So, no, I'd say I'm very fortunate because my dad and I share a lot of passions, and then my grandfather and I as well. And so it's always a tough balance. My grandfather's always, he likes to say, work stays at the office. And that's normally what happens, but then someone starts talking about it, and then we start talking about work. But I think we have a really good balance. It starts from my grandfather. He's always been very focused on, I feel like using the term work-life balance is cliche, but he's focused on, for our employees and for the family too. You do your work at work, and then in the family's case, everyone does a little bit of work outside the office, but you leave those issues at the office. And so my dad and I, we talk about, I think we're both interested in business more generally. And, we have some, we're both passionate about like the energy industry, for instance, and energy markets. And, we talk about these things, sports. Obviously, we're in Buffalo, so there's a lot of football and Bills talk going on, and hopefully hockey. But the Sabres haven't been great lately, and my dad likes to tease me about it because I'm the big Sabres fan of the family. So, for us, it's not something I don't know. It seems to come pretty naturally, I think, in terms of being able to turn it down and when we're not at the office. And but my dad and I also will have, and my grandfather too, will have a lot of just like informal conversations about our aspirations for the business outside of the office, because I think actually that the bigger thinking tends to happen outside of work more when you're not fighting the fires when you come into work every day. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and I've definitely learned over the years, there's always, you're never going to be caught up. There's always something that, you could always probably stay longer and work on something, but I think it's good to get out there, get out of the office and kind of recharge the batteries. And I'm a little more, I appreciate that more as I get older.
Right.
The taking a couple days off to recharge. It's tough though, because as an owner, you're never totally, you're never totally off the clock. So you're always thinking, but we do have a decent balance in that we do get some downtime and some time to relax.
Well, I'm very fortunate too, because all three of us and others in our family as well are avid readers. And so for me, it's fantastic because I never need to buy a book if I don't want to, which I usually do anyways, because I have a problem with buying books, and my dad does as well. But if I need a book, I can go search his library. I can search my grandfather's library. My brothers probably have some hanging around. So it's nice to share some of those passions and be able to talk about stuff that's not necessarily directly related to work, but like a lot of the books we're reading are biographies or profiles of other businesses. And I think we talk about that, and then naturally sometimes that can connect back to the work we're doing here at HFW.
Right. You talked about some big picture stuff, thinking when you're together outside of the office. There's a lot of family business centers and entrepreneurship centers that have some wonderful guidance and resources for companies like yours. Have you all found any of them to be particularly valuable?
Well, I mean, locally, here in Buffalo, I'm in a small group affiliated with the University of Buffalo Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership. That's been a good outlet for me because it's been a chance for me to talk to other business owners, and a lot of times they're true entrepreneurs and people that have really built up businesses. And there are also a lot of family businesses involved. Right. So I enjoy connecting with that group, and so that's been I don't know what Jack's been doing, but that's been my family business entrepreneurial outlet.
Well, I mean, Ed, to go back to the origin of the conversation, I've built my own personal network of people through social media. So I've met some great people locally on LinkedIn that a lot of them I've become close friends, and a couple I speak with, we go and grab coffee roughly quarterly, and then we'll text here or there, especially, my one close friend, Nate, is a business owner. He's, in his late 20s, and he's going through a lot of the same struggles that we talk about here every day. And so it's nice to be able to relate to him. And then online too, LinkedIn and Twitter have been really good at finding people that are in similar situations, especially like we were talking about earlier. I found that the Twitter, there's a small business and manufacturing community of operators and people that are in it every day. And they're not afraid, especially it seems more, like we were saying earlier, more open on Twitter to discussing some of this hard stuff that maybe isn't polished enough for LinkedIn. And so to be able to just have these honest conversations, that's kind of been the network I've found outside of work. And I have a meeting in October with a fellow a small business family owned company here in Buffalo. And we met through LinkedIn. So
interesting.
I think social media, that's another way social media is so powerful if you use it in that way.
So originally, one of the motivations was to identify and attract talent in your community, skilled machinists, I assume, primarily. One of the things that you've done that you mentioned was feature your team in a lot of your short form videos. Have people embraced that, or when they see you coming with your phone out of your pocket, are they turning around and running away, hiding behind a machine center?
Well, that used to happen, but now I think people are more open to it. We've got some really cool stories that have come from that. I can share a couple of them. Like the couple that stick in my mind were first, some of our biggest fans on Facebook and Instagram are our guys. We're mostly, being in manufacturing, it's still mostly a male dominated field. So our guys, and some of these guys will be 35 or 40 years old. Their mothers will be commenting on the post. That's my boy. That's my son. And it's really cool to see that. And they're so proud, and people will reshare it. And then one of our guys, we took some photos and videos of him and we posted them, and then he made that his profile picture and his background on Facebook. And we had another guy who, this was one of the more moving moments that I've had in my career, but in my life too. He came up, he was almost in tears. He was thanking us. We did a post about, showing him off and showing the job he was working on, and just, thanked him for his hard work and, his great attitude. And, he was almost in tears. He's like, no one's ever thanked me like that.
Wow.
At work. And so for us, that was kind of, I think, reaffirming of everything we're trying to do. And we're not perfect. We're not saying we are, but we try to be perfect every day. And I think that's, it's definitely helped our rapport and just, I think, been a piece of the culture and the environment we're trying to build here.
Have you tried any other tactics like sharing or commenting on any of the Titans of CNC stuff or anything like that?
Yeah, and that's still something I'm still experimenting with. I'm figuring this out as I go. I'm not a marketer. I'm not a guru on any of this. I'm not. I like writing. I enjoy writing, but I'm not. Honestly, the marketing angle of it is something I'm learning with. So someone told me, the power of commenting, and I found that, I've commenting on other people's things is how I've made connections with people. And the Titans of CNC was something I was introduced to through one of our great partners at BOCES, which is the trades-based schooling here in New York State. One of the teachers, he's like, hey, you got to check these guys out. So I followed their stuff and seen what they've got going on. And he was one of the ones, his name is Bill Reconditioning. He's at this BOCES in Medina. He was one of the ones that showed me the power of social media to begin with, because he's posting his class every day, showing off what they're doing and all this stuff, and making these kids feel like rock stars. So not only was he one of the ones who exposed me to it, and he's like, hey, just send these guys a message, comment on their stuff, but he also showed me the power of social media to begin with, and he's got a great program. And I think it seems like a lot of these, a lot of these things aren't one-offs. If someone's doing some of this stuff well, they're usually a really well-run organization to begin with. So that's another thing that social media has been great about, is it has exposed us to some really great companies, both in our industry and adjacent to our industry, that we can bounce ideas off of, but also aspire to get to their level someday as well.
It's interesting that you see it in some ways as a proxy for a well-run company in other areas.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you can only put so much lipstick on a pig, right? As I think, Dad, you've noticed this too, where we've had companies and customers that you can just tell they're a well-run organization by what they're putting out on social media and in their marketing efforts.
No, I would definitely agree. And we're trying, as Jack said, we're trying to go in the right direction. I mean, we've got a lot of work to do in a number of areas, but in the social
but you've started,
media,
and so many companies haven't. That's why I was so looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, no, it's been, I think it's been, it's been a good journey and something we're still working on. And I don't know, we'll see where we go from here.
Do you produce your content according to an editorial calendar with specific topics and key terms and schedule, or is it more ad hoc?
We're starting to go more down the scheduled thing. It's more or less ad hoc, but I will put, I guess it depends. Like sometimes, like we have, when my dad mentioned the trade show we have coming up, so we've started to gear some of our content toward that. Around the holidays, or if there's a certain, we on our HFW accounts, we're doing employee of the month stuff, so we'll orient it around that. A lot of times, if there's a cool job that's coming in, something that's unique or that you don't see every day, we'll do a lot of content surrounding that. But it's the consistency, I guess, as far as schedule goes. We try to show off all different areas of the shop. So, one thing that makes HFW unique is the fact that we're not just a machine shop. We're not just a grind shop. We're not just a coating shop. We combine all of that under one roof. And so I'd say we try to balance it. We try to show each of those, not only to show off the different areas of our business so people can get a full glimpse into what we do. But also, some guys will get mad if we show one area consistently. They want their work shown off too, and right. So we try to be fair in how we distribute the content.
So you mentioned the show coming up. I assume you gentlemen are going to be at IMTS in a couple of weeks. Do you have any plans for how you'll work any of your IMTS meetings or activities into some social content?
Well, it's funny because you mentioned before we jumped on here today, Dan Ott, who I love to meet up with. And then I met another guy who started his own company that he was a former machinist. Now he's gotten into AI and programming and combining all this stuff and into helping machine shops. He's going to be at IMTS. So I was messaging him back and forth, and we're going to meet up. So yet again, it's the power of social media. And this guy I've never met in person that I'm going to meet at IMTS, which is cool. This is my second IMTS. The first one was literally a few months after I started, so I didn't really have much of an idea what I was looking at, and I still won't. But I'll have more of an idea. I'm excited that I'm going there, having some meetings down, and going to meet people and talk to people that I've been talking to online for a while. I don't know if you've got anything.
Well, I'm just excited to look at some, put my Christmas list together and look at some new toys.
Right.
That's what I'm excited about.
So that's wearing your buying hat, but you've been selling now for 25 years, I guess 8 years as an engineer and then in sales over 2.5 decades. How have you seen sales change?
Well, I think sales is very, I definitely have noticed the difference. It's very challenging now, just trying to track people down. I mean, and COVID gave us the wonderful gift of, now you don't know where your customer is. I mean, I couldn't believe we were dealing with a chemical plant down in West Virginia, and my sales engineer said, "Oh, I'm going to be down there. Maybe we can meet up for lunch." And the engineer said, "Well, I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania." So, now you're trying to find where your customer is, and with the advent of Teams and Zoom, your customer may not be at that location. So I think it's very challenging because I do remember when I first got into the business world in the early 90s. If you were patient enough and persistent enough, you could literally knock on a door, take a seat, sit down, and someone may come out and talk to you. And now those days are gone. So now you've got to get past, now you've got to get past the gatekeepers and find out who makes the decision. And it's, sales is challenging. It is definitely, but I think that's, I think that's why I enjoy the challenge to some degree. And that's, I'm a competitive person. I still play a lot of tennis. So, I've got that competitive side to me. And I think that's, I think I've noticed that a lot of people in sales tend to be ex-athletes because they enjoy that competition. So, but yeah, it's definitely, sales is challenging now. Just trying to find where people are located. That's been my major concern the last couple years.
Yeah, that athlete point that you bring up, I think, is a really important one. I'm finding that more and more and more that salespeople that have either a competitive NCAA athletic background, in some cases pro, or certain military veterans have an embrace of the process and the grind and doing the reps and doing the work that is important to helping them succeed. And I didn't realize you had that tennis background, Jack. I think you were a team captain in college, right?
In high school, but yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. My dad and I, we played under the same coach who was, I believe, ex-military, and he acted like it too. He trained like the Marines, and we have a lot of that ethos in our company. We have a lot of, especially our leaders are still many of them. I'm thinking of a couple of our leaders who are in their 50s who are still athletes and still very competitive. And my dad, Peter, our plant manager, and then a lot of our younger guys as well are out running marathons and pushing themselves personally. And we talk about a lot of the military ethos. I know Jocko Willink's books have been passed around here. We have, I think, a lot of that ethos that discipline and that drive is something that is infectious, and you see in a lot of our top performers here.
Have changes in the way you buy as a company impacted the way that you sell?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think one thing that I've learned, and I was telling someone this today, I still very much believe in getting out and seeing people face to face and and that's how I buy. I mean, I will get calls from people trying to sell me something, and I'll listen. But if they really want to make the sale, the people who make the sale are usually the people who knock on the door and we sit down with, and you can look them in the eye, and so I'm very old fashioned in how I'm sold to, but that's kind of how I sell. And we actually, a good customer of ours, he gave us a lot of work, and he said, you guys do a nice job, but I'll tell you what, you're the only people that call on me, and he said a lot of people just think they can, send me an email or a phone call and that'll do it. But, I appreciate you jumping on the plane and coming down and seeing me from time to time. So, yeah, I'm still a big believer in, Teams and Zoom and all that are great tools. I still believe in the human connection. Maybe that's a Gen X thing. I don't know.
I was going to say, Jack, I'm going to put you in a tough spot having your dad just having said that, but how's it different? How do millennials buy? Do you believe that it's important to be face to face?
Well, I've often been called old fashioned, so maybe I'm not the best person to ask, but I completely agree. I don't know. I think my generation actually, I think people are always looking for the easiest way to do it, but I think there's so much value in being the exception and being the one to go, and being willing to travel. And we always talk about that. I mean, that's kind of what HFW has been founded on, is we solve people's tough problems, and we're not afraid to get our hands dirty and do what other companies can or won't do. And my dad talked about earlier, one of the challenges is just finding the customer, but I think that creates an opportunity for the people that are willing to still do that. And so no, I'm very much willing to do it. I like getting out on the road. I like having conversations with people, and we all talk about it, and we've seen it play out. Sometimes that 30-minute in-person call can save you, 2 or 3 months worth of emails back and forth that get very little done. So I completely agree. I'm very much a believer in person.
And as you're on this journey now, what would your advice be to companies, similar companies to yours, family owned, privately held, 50 or 100 years of history, very strong, loyal customer base, outstanding work product, loyal employees who say, well, just not for our industry. We're not comfortable using fill in the blank Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever. What would your advice be to them?
Well, I think they just have to be, maybe try a little bit, and I guess it comes down. They have to do what they feel is right. But I just think in today's age, information is happening online. So that's where a lot of conversation is. So I guess someone maybe ease into it and just give it a chance. I mean, we're always mindful here. I think Jack stated earlier. I mean, we're always mindful of what we're showing. I mean, we try and be very generic in what we show. So, we've had numerous posts that haven't made it because we feel that they might, even though the average person might not be able to disseminate what that part is. If your customer sees it and they know what it is,
Right.
It still might leave
Sure.
a bad taste in their mouth. So
Right.
we're always very sensitive as to what can be shown. I would just, tell the other companies, just, baby steps, just give it a chance. But, yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's been good because I think we're showing enough to give our customers and, potential employees a little bit of a taste, and we're not divulging what I would consider anything, proprietary or super secretive.
Do you see parallels in the increased technology in your processing and your manufacturing equipment compared to increasing technology in marketing and sales?
Yeah, no, I think, I'm really excited. I think there's going to be some neat stuff over the next several years with manufacturing and AI. I mean, I know AI is all the buzz right now, but yeah, I think this is just a kind of the social media journey is just, I think, helping us stay on top of what's out there in terms of technology.
So that's an interesting perspective, that by taking this step, by embracing some of this technology and this new mindset, Jack talked about connections has helped him make. You've talked about some connections has helped you make, Matt, but now you're saying you think it actually kind of opens you up to thinking more creatively and being open to new technologies that you might not otherwise know about.
Well, I think it's just, by, as I said, just, I try and keep my scrolling time on LinkedIn very manageable. I don't want to be addicted to it, but, just some of my feeds, I'm picking up on, what's going on in terms of machining technology, materials engineering. So that's where I see a big value if it's done, social media is done correctly, just,
right.
Picking up on what's out there. I mean, you're not going to see, a lot of the trends, this is where information is now online. I mean, even some of the trade magazines that I used to subscribe to, they're all going digital, and the paper versions are, just a couple sheets now. So,
but even that, I mean, how often do you have time to sit down and read 4 articles in a row and concentrate on them from a digital version of a trade journal? My sense is that happened 10 years ago, and now today companies are scrolling. They're getting their news and information through scrolling, which means that if you're not there in a social feed with a good picture, with a captivating video, with an important message, with that kernel of valuable information that you talked about, then somebody's not even going to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think I'm still old fashioned. I still subscribe to several magazines, and I read the Wall Street Journal, the actual physical Wall Street Journal, every day. But I also know I scroll a lot on LinkedIn just to come across my feeds, and
right.
and every once in a while you come across that really cool thing that catches your attention. And I would hope that someday, someone sees something that we're doing, and they're like, whoa, that company in Buffalo is doing something neat. Let's, give them a call and see what it's all about.
Let's take a quick detour, just because I'm so fascinated with this, the conversation around preventative maintenance and reducing preventative maintenance requirements. A lot of what you do is about making, I think, components more durable so they don't require as much maintenance. What I have found consistently is that companies paid a lot of lip service, but in the end, they're not willing to really put money where their mouth is. You have figured out how to build the case for value. What do you find works to resonate with buyers about investing in greater durability to reduce future maintenance costs?
Well, we've been fortunate enough to have a couple of examples where we can at least, we can't get in the specifics, but we can at least tell them, hey, we've been pretty good at solving some of these problems. Just give us a chance. And the toughest sell is usually our best contacts are usually reliability engineers at some of the facilities, because they understand the economics and the downtime, whereas the purchasing people may not. So there's usually that internal battle between engineering and purchasing. So, but yeah, no, it's we've solved some problems, and we're just trying to get the word out there that we may be able to help XYZ company as well.
Well, and how many times real quick, I think it's just finding the right audience. That's the big thing. If we can find the people that truly understand what we're talking about. When we talk to these engineers, there's not a whole lot of selling per se going on, because they understand the value proposition right away. And so it's getting in front of the right people. I think that's the biggest driver of our success in that realm.
Well, what about their risk aversion? Haven't they been not lied to, but led down a rosy path so many times that aren't they quite skeptical now when they hear claims about things? It will work, but it sounds to them like the same kind of things they've heard from other people.
Oh yeah, no, you still have to do your selling process and try and, where applicable, get referrals, or even sometimes for the coating industry, we'll give someone a sample that they can take, and at least, they can put this small sample in their manufacturing process and at least get some sort of idea how it works. But yeah, that's always the tough part, especially with a small company like us, because what's the old old story. Nobody ever got fired for using IBM. Same
Right.
thing. Same thing with us. I mean, we're a small company. We're dealing with a lot of larger companies, and you've got to try and find that person who's willing to take that leap of faith and go with your potential solution.
Right.
But a lot of times you can find those people, and they're willing to try it, because if it works, it's it could really save them money in the end.
So make a quick pitch. A lot of people listen to this may work for OEMs. They're building machines sold into the industrial manufacturing space. What kinds of companies should be in touch with you to see if you can help them?
Well, I would say definitely we have a lot of experience in the chemical processing industry, coming up with solutions that combat wear and corrosion, whether it's a weld overlay or a thermal spray coating. So that would be one group that is we definitely would be open to having conversations with those people.
For folks that want to follow your journey, as I'm sure this is going to be an exciting one that unfolds over years, as you begin to experiment in different areas and using social and content in different ways. I'll certainly drop LinkedIn and Instagram and other links into the show notes. How would you recommend they get in touch with you?
Well, they can follow us on the social media, but also my emails on my work emails on LinkedIn. So if they have any questions, they can feel free to email me, or HFW Industries Incorporated on the web. They can get our phone number there and do an old-fashioned phone call if they wish to.
Cool.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, same thing as my dad, but Instagram, Twitter as well. I give out my phone number pretty liberally, and you can call me, or if you're my age, you can text me as well.
All right, wrap it up for us. And I want an answer from both of you, because I think they'll be complementary but have some separate insights. For a traditional family-owned industrial manufacturing company, what would you say that they should understand about content and social media and reaching buyers digitally?
I'd say consistency, and just get started. I'm still getting through this myself. It's very easy to overthink. Just get started. Try a variety of different things, a variety of different media, and then be consistent about it.
Yeah, well, I would say just be patient. I mean, I don't think one post is going to create waves for anyone, but I think I was really blown away when I saw, from our website metrics, that our customers were visiting some of our, social media, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram. We could tell that they were coming from those sites to the website, and
Right.
And it's going to happen over time. I don't think it's going to be something you do and you're getting thousands of responses the next day. It's just going to be a slow, as Jack said, consistency is the key.
Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you both for your time. Thanks for your willingness to open up and share. I know often in, again, traditional family-owned manufacturing companies, there's hesitance to do that, and I'm grateful that you did. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having us, Ed.
This has been awesome. Thank you.
Good. So everyone listening, please be sure to, the drill, like it, share it, comment, and of course, don't forget to subscribe as well. Thanks very much for listening to the Industrial Growth Institute podcast.